ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथामृतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा. So welcome to our Saturday and Sunday series on the topic exploring Raganuga Bhakti. We have been studying especially the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu there is the first wave which deals with Samanya Bhakti, where the definition of pure devotional service is given. The second wave, which is one of the biggest waves, it is a very long subject where there is discussion on sadhana bhakti. And within sadhana bhakti, there is two divisions, Vaidhi and Raganuga. The major portion of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu deals with Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, the angas of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, that is the 64. But it also deals with Raganuga bhakti. And we have been trying to explore this Raganuga bhakti from various angles, especially from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the main subject we are discussing. Then from other literatures like Ragavartma Chandrika, Chaitanya Charitamrit, and also some other quotations from the present acharyas like Shuddha Bhakta Chintamani, as I mentioned. So this is the third class we are having, and we have till now discussed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift to the best of the Kali Yuga. This was one class where we discussed what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us. Raga Marga Bhakti Korite Pracharan. He has come to give the Raga Marg, which is practiced by the eternal associates of the Lord. That devotion he has come to give. And we had an elaborate discussion on this topic on one of the first days. In the second, that is last Sunday, we discussed the division and overview of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, especially the Eastern division, which we study as a part of our Bhakti Shastri. And then we went into the definition of the previous concepts of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, especially the definition of Uttama Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, and Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And then we discussed the definition of what is Raganuga Bhakti. So we discussed Raganuga Bhakti, and in that context, we discussed what is Ragatmika Bhakti also. So I'll summarize what we discussed in the last class and we will continue our discussion. So it is here where we had stopped or we had discussed that Raganuga, Atha Raganuga. What is Raganuga Bhakti? Virajantim abhivaktam Vrajavasi janadishu Ragatmikam anusruta Yasa Raganugochate. Raganuga Bhakti is defined as that Bhakti which follows after Ragatmika Bhakti. And this Ragatmika Bhakti is found distinctively. Virajantam means it is resplendently manifested and it is, exhibited, abhivaktam, in the inhabitants of the Vrajvasis. Vrajvasi Janadisu. This Vrajvasis refers to the eternal associates of the Lord in the spiritual world. So this is the definition of Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti means following in the that Bhakti which is practiced following the footsteps of the Ragatmika Bhaktas. So we saw this example that Sadhana Bhakti has these two divisions, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. The Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is governed by the Vaidhi rules, the rules and regulations in Vaidhi Bhakti. The Raganuga Bhakta sadhakas, they also follow, but they follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. So here Raganuga Bhakti, in one sense, it is spontaneous, in one sense that we spontaneously are, naturally drawn to practice bhakti following the footsteps of Ragatmika Bhaktis. Whereas Ragatmika Bhakti, followed by the Vrajvasis, they spontaneously, do devotion to Lord Krishna. This is the difference. We have to be very clear about it. By Vaidhi Bhakti, governed by the rules, we are offering our devotion to Krishna. In Raganuga Bhakti, the spontaneity is not directly to Krishna. The spontaneity is to follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Whereas the Ragatmika Bhaktas have spontaneity, direct spontaneity to Krishna. And the Ragatmika definition deals with that. Ishte Swarasika Raga. Ishte means, from the love-filled thirst. Swarasiki, which is spontaneous, that is Raga. And further what it is said? Ishte Swarasiki Raga. There is a definition. Paramavishtata Bhavet. The symptom is what? It is complete absorption in the object. Tanmayi ya Bhavet Bhakti Satra Ragatmikodita. So that is Ragatmika Bhakti. So we also discussed a simple example in our understanding about two players who would like to learn tennis and ultimately go to the Wimbledon. So they go to a coaching camp where a tennis teacher from the book rules explains how to hold the bat, how to do the tossing, how we should lift the throw the ball in the air at a particular angle and hit the ball, and then back forward, all the movements of the hands, legs. So the practice of these two practitioners is governed by the rules of tennis game, the books which are written and the teachers who teach. But among the two, one starts following the tennis champion like Pete Sampras or Steffi Graf. These are 20-year-old examples again. He is naturally, he's able to practice seeing how Pete Sampras, lifts the ball and hits the toss. So he follows that and he starts practicing. So one follows the teacher and the book rules. The other player follows, the role model, Pete Sampras. And Pete Sampras, he's got spontaneity in terms of, not devotion to Krishna, but he has mastered that art. So he's a champion. That's why he's a Wimbledon champion. So the difference between Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is both are sadhana bhaktis. But in Raganuga, there is spontaneity in one sense to follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. So that was the most important point which we discussed in the last class. And then to define Raganuga, then Ragatmika is defined. What is Ragatmika? We saw this definition. Ishte swarasiki raga paramavishtata bhavet tanmai ya bhavet bhakti satra ragatmika odita. Raga is defined as spontaneous, swarasika, deep thirst, paramavishtata for the object of love, ishte. Ishte refers to, we have this Ishtadev, concept in the Gaudi Sampradaya. Ishta means that which is we have deep love and attraction and affection. Every devotee in ISKCON, there are many beautiful temples, the Radha Gopinath temple, the Radha Madhav temple in Mayapur, the Radha Parsarthi in Delhi, the Radha Giridhari temple in Mira Road. So beautiful deities are there, and many devotees might be attracted to one particular deities in one of the temples. So their object of love or spontaneity or attraction flows towards those deities. Similarly, Ishte means like this. They have pure thirst, love-filled thirst for Krishna, either in Vatsalya, Madhurya, Sakya, or Dasya ras, the four prominent rasas where there is a lot of intimacy and love, where God is not recognized as God, but as his friend, as a lover, as a son, which is found only in Vrindavan. So this kind of bhakti, where there is tanmaya bhavet, there is complete absorption. It is filled with. That is Ragatmika Bhakti. That is what in the last class we discussed, and Jiva Goswami's and Vishwanath Chakra Thakur's commentary. We understood the terms Raga, Raganuga, and Ragatmika. Very important to understand these terms. Raga means attraction for sense objects. We become attracted to it. Eyes become agitated seeing something beautiful, or the tongue wants to taste something, and the heart develops rag for this sense object. So this is called as rag. That's why in the Gita many times Krishna uses this Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha, Manmaya Mam Upashita. Rag means attachment. So attachment for sense objects. But when Krishna is the object of attachment, then that is Raga Bhakti, as it is mentioned in Ishte Swarasiki Raga. And this kind of bhakti, where the devotion is for Krishna, it is called as Ragatmika Bhakti, and it is only found in the Vrajavasis. Vrajavasi Janadishu. Rupa Goswami makes it very, very clear. And then there is Raganuga is what? Following in the footsteps of Ragatmika Bhakti, that devotion which is, practiced, which is impelled, following in the same mood of these Ragatmika Bhaktis is called as Raganuga Bhakti, as we have discussed till now. So let us now go to Chaitanya Charitamrit and try to go a little more deeper and try to understand this Raganuga and Ragatmika Bhakti. So Chaitanya Charitamrit, in the discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami, discusses. This is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrit, 22nd chapter, verses 148 to 154. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu elaborately gives this teaching to Sanatana Goswami. In fact, he taught Sanatana Goswami for 2 months, and impregnated with him the transcendental knowledge so that he can write Vedic literatures, Vaishnava literatures, and establish bhakti. So quite in detail in the Chaitanya Charitamrit, Madhya Leela chapter 22, Sanatana Shiksha is there. So after discussing what is bhakti, what is sadhana bhakti, what is pure devotion, then the angas of sadhana bhakti, and what is Vaidhi bhakti, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begins discussion of Raganuga Bhakti. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Kaviraj Goswami is saying, Vaidhi Bhakti sadhanera kahiluno vivarna Raganuga Bhaktira Lakshana Shuno Sanatana. My dear Sanatan, Shuno Sanatan, I have now in detail described devotional service according to regulative principles. Vaidi bhaktir sadhanera kahilunu, kahilun vivarna. I have described Vaidi Bhakti. Now hear from me about spontaneous devotional service and its characteristics. Raganuga Bhaktir Lakshan. Lakshan means characteristics. So again, I would like to make the point clear. Spontaneity is in following the Ragatmika Bhaktas and not directly towards Krishna. This is very, very clearly to be understood in our discussions here. Now, this is the definition he gives for Ragatmika Bhakti, which we also had seen. Ragatmika Bhakti Mukhya Vrajavasijan Taranugata Bhaktira Raganuga Name. This is exactly the same definition what in the Sanskrit Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu Rup Goswami is giving. You know, he is given the exact definition if you see here. Virajantam Abhivaktam Vrajavasi Janadishnu Ragatmika Anusruta Yasa Raganugochate. This is in Sanskrit and this is in Bengali. That's it. That's the difference. The original inhabitants of Vrindavan, Vrajavasi Jane, are attached to Krishna spontaneously in devotional service. Nothing can compare to such spontaneous devotional service, which is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Ragatmika Bhakti, Mukhya Vrajavasi Jane. When the devotee follows in the footsteps of the devotees of Vrindavan, Tara Anugata Bhaktira, his devotional service is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Name. So this is how Kaviraj Goswami defines in Bengali this. Now, further, the definition of Ragatmika. This is the same definition which is quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Ishte Swarasiki Raga Paramma Vishtata Bhavet Tanmaya Bhavet Bhakti Satra Ragatmika Odita. This is the same definition. Now there is something more Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks to Sanatana Goswami. Ishte Gada Trishna Ragera Swarup Lakshan Ishte Avishtata A Tatashta Lakshan. So the characteristics can be always divided into primary and secondary. Primary characteristics are called as Swarup Lakshan. Secondary characteristics are called as Tatastha Lakshan. So the primary characteristic of spontaneous love is deep attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishte Gada Trishna. Rag means deep attachment. Maya Sakta Mana Partha. Asak, the mind is completely attached to Krishna. So that Ragera Swarupa Lakshan, it is called as a Swarup Lakshan. And absorption in thought of him is a marginal characteristics. Ishte Avishtata A Tatashta Lakshan. Avishtata. Because there is deep attachment to the object of love, and that is why there is absorption in that object of love. The absorption is an external action which we can see. From the external action, the internal deep attachment can be known. So that is the point which is being made here. Swarup Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan of the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Deep attachment is the Swarup Lakshan and absorption is the Tatastha or the marginal characteristics. रागमयी भक्ति रहे रागात्मिका नाम ताहा शुने लुब्ध होए कोनो भाग्यवान. Thus, devotional service which consists of rag, deep attachment. Rag here means the ragatmika bhakti, not rag of sense gratification, is called ragatmika, spontaneous loving service to Krishna. If a devotee coverts such a position, taha shune lubda, he is considered to be most fortunate. Kono bhagyavan. Brahmande brahmite कोनो भाग्यवान जीव Guru Krishna prasade paye bhakti lata bij. So there is great fortune required to come in touch with, a spiritual master. And when we come in touch with a spiritual master, when we are searching in our heart for true happiness, I don't belong to this world. I am beyond this body. These kind of spiritual inquiries, God must be there. When we search such inquiries, Krishna hears in our heart and sends a spiritual master. So that is first fortune now. That we come in touch with devotion, we get the Bhakti Lata Bij. As we practice bhakti and advance in spiritual life, the higher fortune is being spoken here. The greater fortune is what? One who has coveted this position of attaining greed. Tara lubdha hoye kono bhagyavan. So it's not like, there is some lottery, and there are 100 devotees practicing in the center, and there is one lottery and somebody attains that greed. No, it is by meticulously practicing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and crossing the stages of bhajan kriya and anarth nivritti and coming to stage of nishta. By that nishta, slowly, with the purification of the heart, one slowly, becomes free from material greed. The heart becomes free from the modes of passion and ignorance, and one is situated more in the mode of goodness. As in the bhakti and as in the Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Naishtiki means he attains steadiness in his firm faith is there. And what is that symptom? Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobhadaschaye chet eter anavidham stitvam sattve prasidati. Tada, at that time when he is situated at Nishta at an exalted position, Nishta is a very exalted position. This is within sadhana bhakti. Also, we should understand. Rajastamo bhava, the modes of passion and ignorance, which symptoms are kama lobha adasya. The kama means lust, lobha means greed. That is, greed is mostly the mode of ignorance. Kama is the mode of passion. Chet eter anavidam. In the chit, in the heart, in the consciousness, the modes are not, they are not affecting that sadhaka. Stitve sattvam prasidati. He is situated in a transcendental platform. So that time, slowly the spiritual greed awakens, Lubda, and that is considered to be a great fortune. Oh, you are now, entering into the king, the king's kingdom. Inside the king's kingdom, now you're entering the king's palace of devotion, the palace of devotion of Raga Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti, I should say. So Ragamay Bhaktir, hoy, Ragatmika Nam, Taha Shune. So Taha Shune, now here, as sadhakas, we should take this lesson that we might not be practicing Ragamay Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti, but we all have a fortune to hear Krishna Katha. The more we hear Krishna Katha, the more the heart gets purified, the more knowledge we get about Bhakti. With that knowledge of Bhakti, we perform more Bhakti. And with that practice of devotion, we attain more knowledge. And with that knowledge, we again practice more devotion. So steadily we make advancement. So we should hear about these topics of devotion, hear Krishna's pastimes from the 10th canto, discourses given by very elevated sannyasis. We should regularly hear Krishna Katha because Krishna Katha is very, very purifying. And then slowly this kind of greed, which is a very steady greed, which is a spiritual greed, will awaken in the heart when the modes of passion and ignorance are completely eradicated from the chitta. And then great fortune of that sadhaka to elevate to higher levels of devotion to practice Raganuga Bhakti begins. So that is what Mahaprabhu is telling to Sanatan Goswami. Lobe vrajavasir bhave kare anugati shastra yukti nahi mane raganugara prakriti. If one follows the footsteps of the inhabitants of Vrindavan out of such transcendental covertness, now here is a very important point being made. It is spiritual greed. It is not material greed of this world, which is especially the effect of mode of ignorance. This is spiritual greed. And because of this greed, he gets natural spontaneous attraction to follow the inhabitants. He is attracted to maybe Krishna's pastimes in the forest with his friends, Sakya Ras, or is attracted to Mother Yashoda and Nand Maharaj, so he hears Krishna's Bal Lila pastimes more, or he's attracted to the Braj Gopis devotion. So all this, attraction, and he wants to now follow in their footsteps and practice devotion. And this, as I mentioned, this lobe, how the transition happens from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, we will definitely look into it in our coming sessions. And also, whether is that greed what we have developed, is it really a greed or is it some imagination also? We'll also elaborately discuss that in our future sessions. But here it is suffice to know that this is spiritual greed, which is happening with a lot of purification of the heart when one has reached the stage of Nishtar and further. He does not care for the injunctions or reasonings of the Shastra. Shastra Yukta Nahi Mani. Now, here you have to understand, it's not that, he doesn't understand the logic of the scriptures. He understands, and that's why he practiced Vaidhi Bhakti. And Vaidhi Bhakti means, following the scriptural injunctions. But now, because he has, developed this attraction to the Ragatmika Bhakti, because there is natural love, and because that love overrules the injunctions of the Shastras. Just like a person who has greed for eating sweet items, although the injunctions of the doctor is, you have diabetes, it's not healthy for you to eat sweets because, it might increase your sugar and you might fall into trouble. But when Ishte, when which is dear to him, that sweet item is there front of him, that to fried hot, like jalebis, he out of greed might override the rule of the doctor to not take sweets. And because of intense greed, he might be attached to eating the hot jalebis and he might eat it also. So that is a mundane example. You can understand how this greed is there in the Ragatmika Bhaktis to follow the Raganuga Bhaktas to follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. He does not care for the injunctions and reasons. That is the way of spontaneous love. So again, the spontaneity is to follow the Ragatmikas. It is not direct spontaneity towards Krishna. Srila Prabhupada has given a very elaborate commentary based on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that a devotee is attracted by the service of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, namely the cowherd men, Nand Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, this is in Vatsalya, Radharani, the gopis, and the cows and calves. An advanced devotee is attracted by the service rendered by an eternal servitor of the Lord. So here, Prabhupada is making it very clear. This devotee is an advanced devotee. That means he is a Madhyamadikari who is situated above Nishta. So this kind of devotee only starts getting attracted to, follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. The service rendered by the eternal servitor of the Lord refers to the Ragatmika devotees of the Lord. This attraction is called spontaneous attraction. Spontaneous attraction towards the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Technically, it is called as Swarupa Upalabdhi. So now this devotee understands, oh, I want to practice, I want to become, I want to practice devotion following Nand Maharaj or Yashoda. So my mood is more of a Vatsalya Bhav. So he now has understood his Swarupa now. Now again, this is a very elaborate topic which we will be taking later on in our sessions when we actually come to the Adhikar, the qualifications of Raganuga Bhakti, which is a later on topic. Right now we are discussing about Ragatmika Bhakti now, if you see. But there we will understand that this cannot be some imagination. It is not some mental concoction of the mind. It is, verified by the spiritual master and the natural spontaneity one has. And it is over a purification of the heart, which can be checked by a check and balance system. So technically, he has some idea of his constitution in which rasa he is more attracted, whether it is Vatsalya, Sakya, the friends of Krishna, or Madhurya. And he is spontaneously following in those footsteps. So it's a natural thing which flows. So this is just a glimpse is given to him, for this advanced devotee. This state is not achieved in the beginning. In the beginning, one has to render service strictly according to the regulative principles set forth by the revealed scriptures and the spiritual master. So in the beginning stages, one should practice bhakti according to the rules. Vidhi bhakti it is called, or Maryada bhakti. There are two types of bhakti in sadhana bhakti. One is called as the Maryada marg, the other is called as the Rag marg. Maryada marg means the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So only by following Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and with the requisite purification, slowly he reaches this advanced stage. So initially one has to follow the scriptural injunctions of the revealed scriptures and the spiritual master. By continuously rendering service to through the process of Vaidhi bhakti, one's natural inclination is gradually awakened. So mark these 2 points here: natural inclination and gradually awakened. So there is a gradual awakening, that not that one day in the morning, after a few 10-15 years of practice, one day morning I get up, oh, I'm attracted to now Sakyaras. No, it gradually awakens this natural inclination with the purification of the heart, as I mentioned at the stage of Nishtha. This is called spontaneous attraction or Raganuga Bhakti. So now Prabhupada is making it clear that the spontaneous attraction is Raganuga Bhakti. An advanced devotee is situated on the platform of spontaneity, is already very expert in Shastric injunctions, logic and argument. Shastra Yukta Cha Nipuna, that is one of the qualities of the Uttamadhikari. Now, I would like to take one question which was asked in the last class, that, the qualification to enter the school of Bhakti is that there is Adhikar. And there are 3 types of Adhikaris: Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. So the question was asked whether this Uttama Adhikari, does he directly, come to practice Raganuga Bhakti? This was a very interesting question asked, and because here the point has come up, I would like to take it now only. So the interesting question is whether the Uttamadhikaris who are, Shastrukta cha Nipuna, that is the definition of a Uttamadhikari, who is entering the Bhakti school, please understand, and whether he automatically takes up to Ragana Bhakti and later on becomes a Ragatmika Bhakta. So here it is very important to understand this Uttamadhikari is something like, for an IIT exam, you have to crack the IIT-G, something it is called. So he has scored the 1st or the 10th rank. He is very expert in understanding the subject of mathematics and logic. So he has scored high marks and definitely he will clear the IIT. Similarly, a Uttamadhikari means who is entering the Bhakti school, he is already very expert in logic. He understands the Shastra and has firm faith, proud Shraddha. His faith is very strong, which cannot be shaken. Whereas somebody who is also practicing bhakti, but he is not understanding the Shastras, he has Komal Shraddha, Kanishta Adhikari. At that point, with his practice of bhakti, he swiftly, moves to the higher levels of bhakti. And ultimately also, because of the purification, he achieves this advanced stage and he is, becomes qualified to follow the Ragatmika Bhakta. Ultimately, with following of Ragatmika Bhakti, he'll attain Bhava stage and Prema stage. This Prema stage also is a general Prema stage in the Sadhaka Sharir. We still have a body. In the Sadhana Dheya, we have attained Siddhi, attained Prema, but still, we cannot attain higher stages of Prema. Only when he gives up this body, enters into Krishna Leela, anywhere in the universe, this universe or other universes where Krishna Leela is happening, there he is born in Krishna Leela in one of the gopis' wombs, according to the kind of bhakti he had practiced in his previous life, the mood he had practiced, whether it is Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, or whatever it is. And there, the finer perfection happens in the finer, higher stages of prema he attains. And then when Krishna leaves back to the spiritual world, there he goes back to the spiritual world and becomes now a Ragatmika Bhakta there in the spiritual world. So yes, definitely Uttamadhikari is more qualified to, attain this stage of Raganuga Bhakti. From Raganuga Bhakti, he attains Bhava, Prema, and in the next life, when he quits his body made of these 5 elements and enters into Krishna Lila, he attains further perfection and he goes back to the spiritual world, and there he attains his spiritual, rasa with Krishna. He becomes a Ragatmika Bhakta. So that is very important point here, which somehow came up, and that's why I took it up. An advanced devotee, sorry, when it comes to the, an advanced devotee situated on the platform of spontaneity is already very expert in Shastric instruction, logic, and argument. When he comes to the point of eternal love for Krishna, no one can deviate him from that position, neither by arguments nor by Shastric evidence. So when one has attained a kind of spontaneity love for Krishna, he doesn't need Shastric logic to, convince him, because he has developed that natural love for Krishna. A mother has natural love for Krishna as for a child. She doesn't need to go to the school to learn, from the books of how to love the child. So this is natural we see in this world. Similarly, this Krishna Prem is also there naturally, but we have to practice sadhana bhakti, especially Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. An advanced devotee has realized his eternal relationship with the Lord, and consequently, he does not accept the logic and arguments of others. So he has realized his eternal relationship. I told you that Swarupa Upalabdhi is a glimpse of what kind of natural inclination or mood in which he would like to practice bhakti is revealed to him in the heart. Because he is situated at a very elevated platform. Sitve Satvam Prasidati. Actually, the full Swarupa and the Rasa and in which relationship he is related to is revealed at the stage of Bhava. But at Nishta also, there is a certain kind of revelation of his, he is a self-realized soul. In fact, at the stage of Nishta, in fact, all the symptoms of self-realized souls, as Krishna speaks in the Sita Pragya section, from 2.55 in the Bhagavad Gita to 2.72 are present in a sadhaka who is at the stage of Nishta. This is also very clearly to be understood. Such an advanced devotee has nothing to do with the sahajiyas who manufacture their own way and commit sins by indulging in illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling, if not meat eating. So, Prabhupada is warning us. There is a tendency, there is one upper sampradaya called as the Sahajiya. Sahaj means Sahaj Lena, they take bhakti very cheap and they want to imitate these higher levels of devotion, that is, oh, I am a gopi and, I have this mood, and, they try to imitate and try to exhibit this in the public without having the prerequisite of purification of the heart. So these, sahajiyas, they are called as sahajiyas, and there are 13 such upper sampradayas which slowly manifested in the 18th century. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by his teachings, he smashed all these upper sampradayas, especially Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and later Srila Prabhupada. So these sahajiyas try to imitate these lofty levels of devotion. In fact, anything which is very rare is always imitated. There is diamond, there are imitation diamonds, there is gold, which is also a very rare jewel. Gold is very costly, so there is imitation gold also, but there is no imitation of any other smaller items because they are cheap. How can you imitate them? So gold and diamonds, there are imitations. Similarly, Krishna Prem is the topmost jewel, and the Sahajas imitate that without having the purification, and they commit all abominable activities. Sometimes the Sahajas imitate, yeah, this is the word I'm using, and Prabhupada is saying that, advanced devotees and live in their own whimsical way, avoiding the principles set down in the revealed scriptures. So if they don't follow the revealed scriptures, then all that imitation will ultimately be futile. Unless one follows the six Goswamis, Sri Rupa, Sanatana, Raghunath Bhatta, Sri Jiva, Gopala Bhatta, Raghunath Das, one cannot be a bona fide spontaneous lover of Krishna. So we have to follow the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. And to follow the six Goswamis of Vrindavan means to read their literatures, especially Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu and Upadesh Amrit, which are the most important literatures given by Rupa Goswami and Prabhupada. In the beginning years of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada gave this nectar of devotion to us. In this connection, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Rupa Raghunatha Pade, Habe Akuti, Kabe Hama Bujhaba, say Yugalapariti. Rupa Raghunatha Pade, Habe Akuti. When will I be eager to take the shelter of Rupa and Raghunath, to take the shelter of the lotus feet of Rupa and Raghunath? And to take shelter of the lotus feet of Rupa and Raghunath means to read their literature. When we read their literature, we are being sheltered under the lotus feet of Rupa and Raghunath. We get their mercy. And then we will be able to understand the loving affairs between the Yugala Pariti. Pariti means love, pure love. And that Yugala means Radha and Krishna. The Sahajiya's understanding of the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna is not bona fide because they do not follow the principles laid down by the six Goswamis. Their illicit connection and their imitation of the dress of Rupa Goswami, as well as their avoidance of the prescribed methods of revealed scriptures, will lead them to the lowest regions of hell. So, they try to imitate Rupa Goswami by wearing the dress of a Babaji, Babaji Vesh it is called, like wearing just a towel, a white towel and a cloth on top. So this is a very advanced stage of Paramahamsa stage where one has completely transcended the three modes. The Goswamis were already, from the eternal world, spiritual world, and here they were following all the principles very, very strictly. So they have taught how to, practice this devotion. These imitative Sahajiyas are cheated and unfortunate. They are not equal to advanced devotees, Paramhamsas. Debauchees and Paramhamsas are not on the same level. So Prabhupada here warns us about this. Further, we will take up, how within even ISKCON while practicing, this advanced stage, when we come to this advantage, there is, a tendency to imitate, and take it cheap as a Sahajiya. The Sahajiya mentality can come in. So how to avoid that? We will take up one of the pastimes which happened during Prabhupada's time only. And that we will see in the slideshow in the coming sessions again, when we go actually to Raganuga Bhakti. So then in the Chaitanya Charitamrit, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes this verse. That is the same verse as the definition of Raganuga Bhakti as given in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So I will not quote this. So this is regarding, in the Chaitanya Charitamrit, what is mentioned about Raganuga Bhakti and Ragatmika Bhakti. So now I would like to take questions. Anyone has questions can raise their hands. There's one question here. Let me see in the chat box. First, I will take that. What you shared today, a devotee in Ragatmika Bhakti does not care for Shastras, which is why we find the way Brajavasis speak about Krishna so amusing and unconventional, as we are conditioned to love also with some restraint and respect. I'm still not able to get what is the question, but so okay, let me take the question. He's raising his hand here. Okay, yes, Prabhuji, what's the question exactly?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, in the way we are conditioned, right? I mean, you're saying that in Ragatmika, Bhakti, sorry, bro, my phone. So, Prabhu, you're saying, right? I mean, in Ragatmika Bhakti, there will not be any care for the Shastras or the, the discipline.
Not in Ragatmika, it is in Raganuga.
Sorry, Prabhu, Raganuga, Prabhu, sorry,
Yes,
my
yes.
apology. So in Raganuga Bhakti, there is, no care for Shastra. So for us, basically the way we are conditioned in our material world and our lives, for us, we always want to have that element of respect or discipline around, the way we want to even address somebody whom we love or really, have affection for. But the way Brajavasis, really associate with Krishna or they talk about Krishna, they don't, even though, externally people are telling, oh Lord, this is Krishna is God. For them, Krishna is still their child, their friend, their lover, and therefore the mood is is eternally that way. I mean, whatever briefly I've seen, in Vrindavan. So that's really amusing, is what I wanted to say, Prabhu.
Yeah, definitely. The Brajbasis, even who are now staying in Vrindavan, neither we can understand their mood of worship, and they are, we cannot, get an estimation and understand with our, limited mind and intelligence and mental speculation. But definitely the Raganuga Bhakta uh, doesn't care for the Shastra means, you see, while practicing sadhana bhakti, he has followed the scriptural injunctions. And when he has developed this covertness, now he has developed that love for Krishna to follow the Ragatmikas. Now his heart is spontaneously attracted to that devotion. So now no other logical arguments can deviate him from bhakti. This is very important. He will still, as a Raganuga Bhakta, give lectures and give logical explanations to Shastra, while giving question answers, by giving lectures. But no one can deviate him from bhakti. That is very important to understand. One who is in fact at the stage of Nishtha, his faith in Krishna is so firm, it is said that it is like a banyan tree. Anyone has tried to shake a banyan tree, it's not possible. But somebody who's at the stage of Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, his faith is komal. It is like a banana tree. Anytime you can shake it and it might fall. So his firm faith in the Shastras, firm faith in Krishna, and a kind of love he has developed for Krishna with that advancement, that nobody can debate him. In that sense, it is there. So we will come to what are the angas of Raganuga Bhakti. There it is mentioned, it will be the same as Vaidhi Bhakti only. In anga of Vaidhi Bhakti, it is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Here it is more intense. In Raganuga Bhakti also he hears, but when he hears Krishna's name, his mind just runs towards, hearing. He's attracted to the holy name. He's attracted to chanting the holy names. He has got absorption in chanting the holy names. So these are, advanced bhajan you can call. He's more advanced. He's bhajan nishtha. Bhajan nishtha means he has got faith in bhajan, and he's paripak. His bhajan is matured. You can say vigya bhajan. He's attained a maturity in his bhajan. So definitely the Brajbasis whom we meet, we cannot understand their devotion at what level it is, but with their interactions we can have some idea. But again, here a warning is, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had given to Jagannath Pandit, you should not much associate with the Brajbasis. Jagannath Pandit was told just 2 or 3 days you stay in Braj and don't associate with the Brajbasis. You can never understand their mood. So this we have to be careful also, but we get a glimpse, and we we are naturally attracted to it, but we have not yet attained that purification. Also, we should understand, and that purification will attain when we systematically practice Vaidhi Bhakti and we undergo that purification of the heart. There is no other way for us. That is the point we have to be clear about. Now, is there any other question? Yeah, so now Prabhupada in the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 15 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, Raganuga is spontaneous dealings of residents of Vrindavan in relationship with Krishna. Please clarify the definition of Raganuga, Prabhuji. Yes, this is very important for us to understand. Srila Prabhupada dictated on his dictaphone the summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that is called as Nectar of Devotion. And the devotees who were translating and transcribing and typing it, they were very new to this terminologies. So, what has happened is, one thing is there is a confusion. Actually, this is referring to Ragatmika Bhakti, but the Raganuga Bhakti definition is given like this. Raganuga Bhakti is very clear. They follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. And the Ragatmika Bhaktas have 100% spontaneous attraction towards Krishna. This we are seeing from Rupa Goswami's definition. So the BBT wanted to, do the editing, sorry, not editing, but these tapes have been lost. And now we have, the translations of commentaries of Jeev Goswami, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur, and even Dhanodhar Swami Maharaj has made a summary, a systematic study of the Nectar of Devotion by writing the Waves of Devotion. The Waves of Devotion is a study of the Nectar of Devotion book of Srila Prabhupada. There also he has very clearly gone and explained how, this error had crept in. It's not that Prabhupada dictated like that, but the translators, they could not understand these terminologies. So here you have to make these corrections, even if the BBT has not done. Then another question is, you mentioned about Sergias who do cheap indentation, but how do we know how to identify and award them? They may not always be easy to identify. So yes, especially when we go to dhams, we should be very careful, and how do we avoid them or how do we identify them? It is a little difficult. Only an advanced devotee can identify them. So you'll have to ask the advanced devotees. So one devotee had asked this question because he was in a dham and he was chanting in the temple, Kir Chor Gopinath, and he saw one Orissa simple devotee from the village chanting, and tears were in his eyes, and he was surprised. What is this, So he asked whether these are symptoms of the bhava stage, Ashta Sattvic Vikar I was seeing. So how do we identify that? So there has to be, Shastric reference for it. The Shastric reference is given of what are the symptoms of one who is on bhava. He will never externally manifest these symptoms. This is very important. Just like in a vehicle, a two-wheeler, vehicle, mechanic, he will, he'll start the, two-wheeler, and he will hear the noise and he will say that maybe in the engine, this seal is gone. And we'll also hear the same sound, but we cannot identify it. But a mechanic, because he's expert in the science of how to repair the engine of the two-wheeler, because he has known that science, he can identify it. Similarly, an expert devotee, from the scriptures symptoms, he can identify whether it is imitation or it is genuine. It requires a lot of maturity for us to understand these things. And that is why you will have to take the guidance of an expert. So that is my understanding. Any other questions till now, what we have discussed? Yes, there is one more question. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, you were mentioning that people who have there are devotees who will be able to manifest some of these symptoms, which, of course, they will not try to externally show, right? But how is this, different from, most of the time you see people who are doing a lot of prayers to, to Devi, goddess, right? They will suddenly, while they are doing their, prayers, they get some kind of, epileptic attack type of thing, where they say, iske andar Mataji aa gayi hai and all that. So what is that? And, why does, and it's surprising for me. Again, I've not really seen anybody having that other than while they are doing, prayers for Devi. Of course, in Krishna Bhakti, also I've not had an opportunity to see anybody who manifested, any symptoms of tears or any other, symptoms. I've probably seen on TV, like some of these people who are, of course, not ISKCON, preachers or devotees, but yeah, they would they would show it, and maybe they're Sahajiyas or not, we don't know. Again, not keenly following them, but yeah, you happen to just see such people. But how does it differentiate between those people, who are basically doing all this? They do, this Mata Ka Jagran. You must have heard of it, right? Especially during Navratris and all, and they'll suddenly get these symptoms, and they'll start talking. They'll start talking incoherently also, Prabhu. Yeah, sorry.
Got it.
Prabhu, if you can just.
Firstly, you have to understand regarding, these kind of, especially now, I'll take two things now here. Firstly, it is outside the practice of Krishna consciousness, especially these Devi and all these, kind of, saving the Devi entering or manifesting some types of symptoms. These are all, on the bodily platform. They have nothing to do with the soul, So there is the mind, there is a body, and then there is a soul. So because Arjuna is also experiencing ecstatic symptoms. Vepatushya sharire me Roma harshasya jayate. Roma harsha means the hairs are standing on end. But it is out of what? It is out of fear. So these are not the symptoms of bhava bhakti. These are the symptoms of material existence, fear because of the bodily conscious of life. So Arjuna is exhibiting as part of the Leela again, the symptoms which are very similar of a Bhava Bhakta, where Bhava Bhakta's hair stand on end, the Ashta Sattvic Vikars which we call. So these can be manifested in the bodily platform, and they can be manifested purely at the spiritual platform. The soul, the emotions for spring from the soul, they manifest in the mind, and they ultimately exhibit on the body. So there is a difference between that in the bhava bhakti stage, and then within, I'm speaking now within the devotional realm, and the emotions which we experience, like fear, standing hairs on end. In fact, whenever I see the dogs are coming and they are like trying to roar at me, my hairs also stand on end. It doesn't mean that there are ashtasattva vikars. This is not a symptom of bhava bhakti. So this is one thing to be understood now within the realm of devotion first. Secondly, within the practice of sadhana bhakti, over a period of time, or while we are practicing sadhana bhakti, we might also get some glimpse when we take darshan of the beautiful deities, or when we go to the dham, we might experience certain spiritual emotions, because of the dham's potency, or while chanting also, suddenly we might be transferred into another realm which is never before experienced. Again, these are not the exact symptoms of somebody who is having bhava bhakti, the ashtasattvic vikars. This is just a ratyabhas, it is called. Rati ka abhas. It is just a glimpse or a shadow manifestation of bhava bhakti. It's not real, it is shadow manifestation, which, a glimpse is given, and still the purification has to happen. But real symptoms are mentioned when Rup Goswami gives the definition of bhava bhakti. He gives 9 symptoms. Namagana Sadaruchi. He has got a lot of taste in chanting. Avyartha Kalatvam. He not even wastes a single moment without thinking about Krishna. So these are sometimes of some of the symptoms, and no external symptoms. He might not exhibit any of the ashtasattvic vikars, but that doesn't mean he's not a bhava bhakta. So this is one thing to be understood within the ISKCON devotional practice. Secondly, that second category, with respect to Devi and all, we should not think about it at all, firstly, as ISKCON devotees, because they are completely in the mode of ignorance and deep ignorance. All these practices are tantric, they are more in the mode of ignorance, which that kind of worship is, and it has nothing to do with devotion at all, in fact. So that is nothing to be discussed about it also, in one sense. It is completely tamasic. Is that clear, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Okay. So now, any other questions anyone has here, which would like to take up? We can go to the next topic now. Okay. So now let us go to the next discussion. We have discussed this on the Chaitanya Charitamrit. Now let us go to Ragavartama Chandrika. And now, what is this Ragavartama Chandrika? We will come to know. This is the first text of Ragavartama Chandrika composed by Vishwanath Chakra Thakur. Shri Rupa Vaka Sudha Swadi Chakar Chakarobhyo Namo Nama Esham Kripa Laver Vakshe Ragavartmani Chandrikam. With great humility and veneration, I offer my obeisances again and again to those devotees who are like Chakora birds. Chakorobhyo Namo Nama. Again and again, obeisances, and humility and veneration. Now, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur is offering humility and veneration to devotees. And these devotees are who? They are like a Chakora birds. Why they are Chakora birds? Because they are always relishing the nectar of the words of Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupa Vak Sudha Swadi. Swad means to Aswad. Aswad is also, Aswad, in Aswad the prefix is there. Swad is taste, Swadi. So one who is tasting the nectar, Sudha, Sudha means nectar. Vak means the words of Sri Rupa Goswami. I offer them respects. They are like the Chakora birds, he is comparing to them. So we can imagine how Vishwanath Chakra Thakur is treating devotees who are reading Rupa Goswami's books. So we are all going through Rupa Goswami's nectar of devotion, and Rupa Goswami is offering, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur is offering a obeisances, and he's comparing us to Chakora birds. So this is the humility of a pure devotee, that he considers others always, greater than him. On the strength of just a slight merciful glance from them. So these are very advanced devotees who are Madhyamadhikaris, who are preachers, and they have genuine compassion for the fallen souls. And they preach. Esham Kripa Laver Vakshe. Vakshe means to, Iksha means to see. By their merciful glance, Kripa, Laver means a movement. What will happening? On that strength, I am beginning this book. So he is telling, based on the kripa of these Chakora birds, I am beginning this book. And this book is like, which is like a moonbeam illuminating the path of spontaneous devotion. Raga Vartmani Chandrikam. So this is the book name. And in the introduction, by invocation of this verse, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur begins his text. Next, here now the meaning of Raga Vartmani Chandrikam. During the dark moon night, when the moon is not visible, the night is also very dark. So we know there is the Purnima and the Amavasya. During the Amavasya night, it's completely dark. I'm not speaking in the cities, but if you go to the village, it is pitch dark, you can say. You can't just see even yourself. You can't see the ground. You can't see the pathway. You can't see anything. There is a narrow path, but it is unseen in darkness. If the moon was visible, it would distribute its rays of light to reveal the path. So there is a narrow path, but because of the darkness, it is not seen. But if the moon was there, then the moon rays what? Will reveal that path. Path is called as Vartma. Vartma is the word also used in the Mama Vartmano Vartante, Manusha Partha Sardasha. Path. Everyone follows my path, Krishna says. So Vartma means the path. This book is the Chandrika. So the Raga Vartma Chandrika, is like, this book is the moon ray that casts its light on the path of Rag or spontaneous devotion. Just like the moon rays will cast their light on the narrow path, similarly, this book, Raga Vartma Chandrika, will cast its light on the path of Raga or spontaneous loving devotion. Therefore, it is called Raga Vartmani Chandrika. So this is a beautiful metaphor how Rupa Goswami has titled this. In text 2, he says, Srimad Bhakti Sudam Bodhe Bhaktiryah Purva Darshita Tatra Raganuga Bhakti Sankshiptatra vitanyate. In the previously published Yaha Purva Drishtati Darshitya Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu Srimat Bhakti Sudhamoder Bindu. So, what is this Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu Bindu? Actually, Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Devotion, the Sanskrit, book name is Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And Vishwanath Chakra Thakur summarized or gave the essence of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu in the form of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu Bundu. That means he gave a summary study of the Bhakti Rasam, because the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu is a very, very vast work. In fact, it has around 2172 verses. So Rupa Goswami extracted the essence of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu and gave a book called as Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu Bindu, where I think there must be around 70 or 100 verses. So only in 100 verses he gave the entire Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. That is the quality of Vishwanath Chakra Thakur. And in that Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, what he's saying, Raganuga Bhakti was described in brief. Tatra Raganuga Bhakti Sankshipta. Sankshipta means very briefly there in that Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu I have discussed. Now an elaborate explanation of that spontaneous devotion is given in this treatise. Atra Vitanyate. Vitan means to expand. So an elaborate explanation, only about Raganuga Bhakti, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur is giving in Raga Vartmaka Chandrika. So this is Raga Vartmaka Chandrika. What is there? It is only going to speak about Raganuga Bhakti. Exclusively a book on Raganuga Bhakti by Vishwanath Chakra Thakur. Now, 2 verses he discusses who is qualified to practice Raganuga Bhakti. What is the symptom of Raganuga Bhakti? Vidhi Bhaktir Bhavet Shastram Bhakto Chet Swat Pravartakam Raganuga Swat Chet Bhakto Loba Eva Pravartaka. Now here he gives a definition. Devotion impelled by injunctions of the scripture is called Vidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti, sorry. Vidhi Bhaktir Bhavet Shastra. Bhakto cha Chet Swa Pravartaka. Pravartaka means his nature is that he will follow the Shastras, injunctions of it. It is impelled. Pravartaka is impelled. And devotional incited by spiritual greed. Again, the word has come, spiritual greed, is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Swat Chet Bhakto Loga Eva Pravartaka. Pravartaka here is now incited or impelled. Again, impelled and incited is the same. So this is the difference between, or the definition of what is Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti, which we have seen also what Rupa Goswami has given, and even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings. So this is from another angle, he is giving the definition. Now, fourth text. Bhakto pravrittir atra swat tat chikirsha sunishchaya shastra lobhat tat chikirshu swatam tad adhikarino. Now, what is the qualification practicing Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganu Bhakti? To advance in devotional life means to nurture the single-minded desire to engage exclusively in the limbs of bhakti. So to advance in devotional life, we have to engage with one pointed desire to practice the limbs of sadhana bhakti. One can progress in bhakti in 2 ways. Out of fear of the results of neglecting scriptural injunctions. Sastra lobat tat chikirshu. Syatam tad adhikarino, with intense spiritual greed. So there are 2 ways. One is Shastra and other is Loba. Hence, according to one's qualification, there are 2 types of practitioners of Bhakti Sadhana. So Adhikar means qualification. So those who are, impelled by the scriptural injunctions, they practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And those who are impelled by spiritual greed, they become qualified to practice what? Raganuga Bhakti. So basically there is a adhikar. The adhikar is here the lobha. Lobha means the spiritual greed. So when you develop that lobha, the spiritual greed, then you are now having the adhikar now to practice Raganuga Bhakti. Without having the adhikar, you cannot practice. Otherwise, it will become an imitation. So we are, we should have this clear understanding that whether we have adhikar, everything requires adhikar. If you want to become an IAS officer, you have to crack the IAS exams. You have to go through these different levels. Ultimately, then the final interview. If you want to get into the IIT, you have to have that adhikar. You have to crack the IIT exams, and you have to score your marks, within that range, and then you become adhikar for entering the IIT. It's not that you become an engineer just by entering in there. When you enter IIT, then you study there. Of course, when you enter IIT, it doesn't mean that you become an engineer. You'll have to, go through these 4 years of engineering study. In between, you might become distracted and you might, get into bad habits, and you might fail in the exams and you might not pass also. There are many who have dropped out from the IIT also. So with the adhikar and with this practice, slowly you'll attain perfection. So what is the adhikar? One is Shastra and other is Loba. And then based on the adhikar, we practice. So there are these 2 ways of progress based on the adhikar. So these are the first 4 verses which briefly touch upon, the Raganuga Bhakti. Further, there are many other things which we will take up later on. Now we come back to, Ragatmika Bhakti. There is definition of Ragatmika Bhakti which was given by, here. Ishte Swarasiki Raga Paramavishtata Bhavet Tanmayi Ya Bhavet Bhakti Raganaga Atra Uchate. So that was given. Okay. So I'll just finish this and take one question which has come up. We'll just finish this right now and then we will take up. We have few more minutes. So let me first take up this discussion. Okay. So what was I saying? Yeah, we had spoken about, what is Raganuga Bhakti? To follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. And what is this Ragatmika Bhakti? We defined this Ragatmika Bhakti here. Ishte Swarasiki Raga. Now, there are 2 types of Ragatmika Bhakti. There are 2 types of Ragatmika Bhakti. And now we are going to study about this. What are these 2 types of Ragatmika Bhakti? Now, again, these Ragatmika Bhaktas are from the spiritual world. And they are of 2 types, Sambandha Roop and Kama Roop. So let us see what Rup Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has to say about it. Sa Kama Rupa Sambandha Rupa Chet Bhaved Vida. There are 2 types of Ragatmika Bhakti, Swad Vida Bhavet, that impelled by congenial feelings, Kama Rupa, and that impelled by other relationships, Sambandha Rupa. Kama Rupa, Sambandha Rupa, Cha Iti. So there are 2 types of Ragatmika Bhakti. Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti, Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. Now again, we have nothing to do with this Ragatmika Bhakti because they are in the spiritual world. They are practicing Ragatmika Bhakti in the spiritual world. But again, in that there are 2 types. This understanding is very important for us. Although if we are qualified for Raganuga Bhakti, we will follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. But in the Ragatmika Bhaktas also there is these 2 divisions. So what are these 2 divisions? Now, Rup Goswami is clarifying here in this verse. There are these 2 types. So now, Jiva Goswami says, Kama Rupa means that bhakti which is typified, rupyate, or impelled by congenial feelings. Kama. Kama Rupa means the Madhurya Ras of the Vraj Gopis. A particular type of thirst. So this is called as Kama. Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. Sambandha Rupa means that bhakti undertaken or impelled by thirst caused by relationship, sambandha. So calm is impelled by a particular conjugal feelings. That's why it is called as calm. Sambandh means the bhakti which is impelled by in terms of relationship. Very interesting explanation. Let us go and see what further it is. Why Kama Rupa is separately labeled? It is also a type of relationship. There is a relationship between the gopis and Krishna. So why Kama is separately, Kama Rupa Ragatmika separately labeled and Sambandha Rupa is separately labeled? In Sambandha also there is relationship. In Kama also there is a relationship of the lover and the beloved. In the Sambandh also there is a relationship like Mother Yashoda and Krishna. That is Sambandh is mother and child, Vatsalya, or the friends, Sakas. So why this distinction? Why Kama Rupa is separately labeled? Though Kama Rupa Bhakti is a type of relationship, it is labeled separately since it is the chief relationship. Within Madhurya Ras, there is also Vatsalya, Sakhya, and Dasya. So Madhurya Ras contains all other rasas also. That is the beauty of Madhurya Ras. So Madhurya Ras is a, chief among all the relationships. So just like, earth, water, fire, air, ether, in, in ether, there is only sound. And in water, there is, form. Sorry, in fire, there is form. In water, there is taste. And in air, there is, touch. But in earth, there is sound, there is taste, there is touch, everything is there in that. So similarly, within Madhurya Ras, all the other rasas are there. So Madhurya Ras or Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti is the chief of all the relationships. That's why it is separately labeled. It is similar to saying everyone is coming and the king is also coming. So why, when you're saying everyone is coming, then why you should separately mention the king is coming also? There is a reason. Though the word everyone includes the king, special mention is made of the king because of his importance. So although there is both there is relationship, but there is, just like the king, Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti is special, and that's why there is this separate labeling of Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. Now, scriptural proof for the two types of Ragatmika Bhakti. Now, this is a very interesting topic which is going to start. And let me see what is the time now. Oh, it is almost 8:20. So this is a very important topic we are going to discuss, and this will be a few slides, at least 8-10 slides. So I don't want to in between begin it. So tomorrow we will continue this discussion of the scriptural proof of Ragatmika Bhakti, which we will definitely take it up tomorrow. So there was one question in the chat. What is the significance of the Chakora bird in all our spiritual books? What bird is it and how it is special? The Chakora bird is a very special bird, and in nature, every creation of Krishna has some unique features, and the Kavya Shastras, especially the literatures composed by devotees, the devotees are poets. So they use metaphors to illustrate spiritual points. And the Chakora bird, is known for only drinking rainwater. And it is always absorbed and waiting in the sky. When will the clouds be formed? And when I will, drink this rainwater. So this is the unique feature of the Chakora bird. And another feature of the Chakora bird is sometimes because of the forming of the clouds and the thunder and the lightning, it might be struck with the lightning, the Chakora bird, but still it is one pointed. It is, it is determined, it will not deviate. I will still look into and only drink the rainwater. It will die, but it will not go in for anything else. So, the devotees also should be like this. The devotee should be exclusively drinking the nectar of only Krishna Katha and not be attracted to any other Katha from any other, scriptures like the which speak about demigod worship or any other thing. They should only, hear only bhakti literatures. They should only take the nectar of Krishna Katha, in the form of bhakti literatures through the years, just like the Chakora wants to drink only rainwater. And another significance is uh, the devotees, when they face troubles in spiritual life, just like the thunderbolt strikes the Chakora bird, the devotees don't look for any other shelter like the demigods, or he might do some yagya or there is some dosha. So all these, difficulties the devotee goes through in his spiritual life actually are bestowed by Krishna, and his faith is not deviated. Just like the Chakora bird is, you know, he's not disturbed. He gets back and again looks at the sky, waiting for that rain cloud. Similarly, a devotee should not fumble, and his faith should not be shaken when he faces troubles in spiritual life. You know, especially when troubles come in the form of distress, in the form of sufferings. Yeah. So all these kind of difficulties or obstacles he faces in spiritual life, he should march forward, having firm faith in the spiritual master, in the Shastras and Krishna. So this is how a devotee can learn from this Chakora bird. So that's the significance of the Chakora bird. Any other questions anyone has? You can raise your hands. We can take it up. Any questions? Any clarifications? Okay, so we will stop here, and tomorrow evening, this is a very important discussion we are going to have of scriptural proof of where this kind of Ragatmika Bhakti is mentioned. And further, the discussion is going to be there. Very, very interesting discussion. So stay tuned tomorrow evening, same time at 7 p.m. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Rupa Goswami Pad ki Jai. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki Jai. Hare Krishna.